Hello and welcome. Thanks very much for taking the time to watch this video. My name is Tom Eggleston, Operations Director at Proofid. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how Identify can be used in a university to allow students to access protected resources using social identities. Okay, let's get started. We're going to walk through an example showing how we can use social identities to provide access to resources right through the student life cycle, from pre-applicant to alumni. Richard is a 15-year-old pupil who is interested in finding out about studying at his local university. He visits the university website and is invited to register his interest. The traditional way of doing this would be to fill in an online form. However, that can be quite inefficient. Gartner estimates that in 62% of cases, users won't take the time to fill in a form to register on a website, which represents a lot of missed opportunities to capture potential students at an early stage. With Identify, the university can allow the pre-applicant to sign in with their social credentials. In this example, Richard is going to use his Facebook login. It doesn't have to be Facebook, but it's the most familiar example. So Richard clicks on the login with Facebook icon and then logs in with his Facebook account. Okay, now Facebook is just asking Richard to grant permissions to the Identify application so that Identify will have access to his profile. So we say OK, and also to post to his Facebook wall. Okay, so Richard is now logged into Identify. As you can see, we've pulled through his email address from Facebook, and we've assigned him the role of prospective student. We've generated a username as well, which could be used to provision accounts for Richard in legacy or on-premise applications. In the green box, we can see that Richard is logged in with Facebook, but as we don't really know who Richard is at this stage, he really could be anyone, he has an assurance level of AL0. Despite this, the university is happy to grant Richard access to a taster course in the virtual learning environment, which is Moodle in this case, so Richard can get a feel for what it would be like to study at the university. So Richard can click on the Moodle link and it single signs him through in the background. As you can see, an account's been created for Richard within Moodle, and he's been given access to a taster course. As Richard has granted Identify access to his profile, the university can now use this as a channel of communication, which will increase the chance of Richard opting to finally study at the university. Okay, so a couple of years pass and Richard has completed his exams and has been offered a place at the university. Typically, a university would now create user accounts for Richard in all of their IT systems. However, Identify allows the university to grant Richard access to applications securely using just his existing social credentials. In order to do this, the university needs to be able to trust Richard's Facebook account to be sure that it truly belongs to Richard. Identify offers an identity proofing mechanism to do this. I'm now switching to be an administrator. Imagine that Richard is now going through the registration process at the university. In this simple example, the administrator will issue Richard with a code which Richard can use to complete the proofing process. However, there are many options for proofing, ranging from sending an SMS right through to the use of biometrics. Identify can be configured to fit in with the university's specific registration processes. So, as the administrator, I'll locate Richard's account. As you can see, the interface tells me that Richard currently has assurance level AL0. I'm going to initiate the assurance level for AL1. So a code is generated. In the real world, this would probably be printed out on a piece of paper and physically handed to the student, but it could be sent to a trusted mobile as an SMS or even sent to his home address pre-registration. So I'll just copy this code and I'm going to switch back to Richard's account. Okay, Richard has been told to visit Facebook to complete the proofing process. So we're going to do that now. As you can see, Identify has sent a private message to Richard's wall. You can see it's private because we've got the padlock icon here. And the message tells him to click the link to complete the identity proofing process and to enter the code he's been given. So we'll go ahead and do that now. So come back to Identify. Richard enters the code that he was given on the piece of paper and clicks Login. Okay, so Richard has now been proofed. The university has tied Richard's Facebook account to Richard. We've changed Richard's assurance level from AL0 to AL1, as you can see here. We've also added an additional role of student. Richard now has access to additional resources. So in this example, we've only granted access to Office 365, but it could include any other systems like the library system or the VLE, whatever. Now, a key point is that Identify can be configured to force the student to recertify on a regular basis. So, for example, each term maybe a new code will be sent to the student via SMS, so the university can be sure that the social identities are still current and still valid. So what's happening in the background here is we're provisioning Richard's Office 365 account. So while that's happening in the background, I'll just talk through another piece of functionality. So what Richard is able to do here is to link additional social identities. Now this is really important from an alumni point of view. For example, Richard might have a Facebook account when he starts university, but by the time he leaves maybe has a LinkedIn account. Identify will allow Richard to link all of these social identities together, which means that the university has multiple current channels of communication with Richard when he becomes an alumni, which are much more effective from a marketing point of view than the email for life approach, which is quite common currently. So in this example, Richard's going to add his Twitter account. So he clicks on the Login with Twitter button and signs in. Clicks on Authorize. Okay, and now you can see that in addition to the Facebook account, Richard now has an additional Twitter account. Although you can see that his Twitter account has only got assurance level of AL0, and that's because we manage identity proofing separately for each social identity that the user links. Okay, so just to complete the demonstration, in the background we've provisioned Richard's account into Office 365, so I'll click there and we'll single sign on through. Just set the time zone here, and as you can see, we've signed into Office 365 as Richard, and we've done that whole process end to end without any on-premise Microsoft architecture such as Active Directory or ADFS. Okay, so just to recap the key benefits of Identify. It's a social identity management platform which allows login with social credentials such as Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or indeed any social network which supports OAuth. We've got the ability to link multiple social identities to one known individual. There's a social identity assurance process which is done through a multi-factor social identity proofing. And importantly, there's also social identity recertification. So users can be prompted regularly to recertify that their social identities are current. We have federation and single sign-on to web or cloud-based applications, but also provisioning to legacy on-premise applications if that's required. We have full user lifecycle management for social identities, easier and earlier capture of pre-applicants. Got much enhanced management of alumni through social channels, and support for all emerging standards in the space, including OAuth, OpenID Connect, and SCIM. Okay, well, thanks very much for taking the time to watch the video. There's contact information on the screen. If you require any further information, please feel free to drop us a line. Thanks again.